Well, we've reached the final game in the 3D Sonic Marathon, just in time since Sonic Forces is due out in a month. What can I say about Sonic Lost World? Well, honestly, after having a lot of fun with Sonic Colors and Sonic Generations, why then did Sonic Team decide to completely overhaul the formula? Why change what was working? Why take a risk when you were getting back into everyone's good graces? Well, in that sense, I think Sonic Lost World is an ambitious title, but is it good? Well, yeah, let's get started with the review. Anyway, spoiler warning, skip to this time in the video if you haven't been spoiled. It's a 4-year-old game, so I shouldn't have to put this up, but just in case. So, the game opens with Sonic and Tails chasing Dr. Eggman to rescue the animals, when the Doctor drops it, forcing Sonic and Tails to crash land on the Lost Hex. Something that's never been mentioned before. Yeah, are we sure that this isn't Little Planet? So Sonic and Tails work to rescue the animals, but Eggman has some help this time around in the form of the Deadly Six. Who are these guys? Where did they come from? Hell if I know. They get no introduction, no explanation as to who they are and how they met Eggman. Eggman has some kind of conch that controls them, but it's never explained just how he got his hands on this. Now, you might be noting, Sonic Adventure never showed Eggman meeting Chaos, although he does mention that he read some stone tablets to establish that he knew that Chaos would transform. But these guys? Yeah, there's nothing about them, and they all have such one-note characterization, each dedicated by a certain color and personality. Red guy, whose name is Zarek, is the leader. There's the old man, the emo goth who I almost find funny.
Just give up, Sonic. It's what I do. As a matter of fact, I've already pretty much given up on hope, happiness, success. Come to think of it, what am I still doing here? Fall back into bed.
Yeah, you do that. The girl, who, let's be honest, pretty much has that as her most defining attribute, since she's constantly all about makeup and girly stuff.
Oh my gosh, are you serious? I am so sorry.
Oh, well, in that case...
Oh no, what I meant to say is, I'm so sorry that you have nothing more important to do in life.
There's the yellow fat one, whose whole joke is that he's fat and dumb, and likes to eat, and the purple one who is... you know, he really doesn't even have a character outside of being somewhat crazy, which is not much. So how come we don't get any explanation as to who they are?
Okay, I didn't need your whole life story. A simple good to go would have been cool.
Hey, shut up! Amy and Knuckles appear, but they're really just cameos. Not really sure why they were put in. In Sonic Generations they didn't even do much, so it's even more questionable why they're here. Knuckles is still just comic relief. It's still the Sonic and Tails show, but things get deconstructed a little bit. See, Sonic acts impulsively a few times. The first is when he knocks the shell out of Eggman's hand, which allows the Zeddy to take control of Eggman's mechs. This causes the two to have to team up with Eggman, yet they act like it's never happened before. It's interesting how this leads to arguments with Sonic and Tails, as Tails feels that Sonic doesn't trust him. It's an attempted deconstruction of Sonic's character.
I do trust you, Tails, but the whole world's in danger because I did something stupid. Do you know how much that bites?
He acts impulsively again when he ends up getting Tails captured by the Deadly Six, and slowly finds himself all alone as Eggman falls to a seeming death as they suck all the life out of the world.
Amy? Knuckles? Anybody?
Now, do you expect Sonic to learn something from all this? No, he doesn't. The idea was there, but it's not followed through very well. Also, the Deadly Six commit stupidity that you would expect in a James Bond movie. They have Tails strapped to a table to turn him into a robot, and instead of staying there and watching the progress, they leave the room, giving him ample time to escape and completely surprise them.
You incompetent fools! I cannot trust you with the simplest of tasks.
The graphics and presentation are pretty damn good. For the Wii U, this game looks great. The graphics are again nice and colorful, and everything visually pops, and runs at a smooth 60 frames per second. The only downside I can think of is the music. It's not quite as memorable as past games. Not much to say here. The writing is also a mixed bag this time around. It feels like the writers were really running out of steam and charm. They really ran this Baldy McNose here joke into the ground, and the dialogue doesn't feel as smooth or funny. There are a couple of moments.
I hope the Zeti eat you alive, you meddling hedgehog.
Okay, if it pleases the court, all those who think Eggman is a total bonehead raise their hands.
Well, there you go, folks. The motion is passed unanimously.
I didn't raise my hand.
But there are times where the writing really falls flat.
Actually, nothing bites more than having to listen to this dreadful conversation.
Eggman, you bite!
So, let's cover the gameplay. Sonic now has a run button. Yes, a run button. I didn't necessarily mind this. By holding down the right trigger, Sonic can get up to speed. This part I don't necessarily mind. I find that it works quite well with the spherical worlds that the game is trying to present. Without it, Sonic just walks to a crawl. Sonic can do the spin dash again, and can do the homing attack as usual, but this time he can target multiple enemies in a row. It's kinda weird, but I don't mind it, except for times where it doesn't want to work. You can charge up the homing attack, which I don't really wait for at times, but it's there if you want to do it. Sonic also has a double jump, which is a little floaty, but it does save you at times. What I will find disconcerting is the new mechanics they put into the game. You have a new parkour system in place. With any kind of momentum, Sonic will run alongside the wall, and you can jump between walls at will. You can do this in both the 3D and 2D segments, though I find it most annoying in the 3D segments because I couldn't often get it to work, and usually if you don't get it to work, you fall into a bottomless pit. So those are back, and unlike last time where you had full warning that you were near a bottomless pit, this game doesn't give you any kind of warning. Fortunately, most of the time these are completely optional. There was a part where it was mandatory, but I found my own way around it by running on top of the walls. I don't think I was supposed to do that, but The game often has no sense of gravity, with the ability to run on top and on the bottom of the stages. Where have I seen this before? Why yes, I have seen it before with Super Mario Galaxy. There's a lot of similarities, particularly in the ice world. Using the run button causes Sonic to skate. But I use that term loosely because it's so awkward to control, whereas compare that to Super Mario Galaxy, when you had to skate on ice, how smooth and natural the controls felt. Here it just plays like, ugh, this is so awkward. On the positive side, each level feels unique. World 1 is all grass, 2 is all desert, 3 is all about the beach, 4 is all ice, 5 takes place in a forest, 6 is in the sky, and 7 is a volcano. Each has 4 zones for you to beat, but the levels get much longer and longer, and that gets annoying. There's one level where Sonic rolls into a snowball. Alright. Oh boy, here we go. Why? Why would Sonic roll into a snowball? Why can't I play as Sonic normally? It just plays like ass, too. Look at this! Sonic has access to the Wisp power-ups again, but why are they here? I mean, you're not in outer space this time. I guess part of the problem is Sonic's team has had a hard time implementing power-ups like in the old days. They would just put in or make them upgrades in the previous 3D games. In Colors, it worked because the levels were designed around the power-ups, but here, you have to use the gamepad to use them, and let me tell you something, this game does not make good use of the gamepad. Using gyroscope controls to move your character around just doesn't work. There's also a part where Sonic is basically free-falling in the air, but controlling him is just awkward because you have to keep jumping to move down. How did I die by falling up? Let me also say something. This game is hard. Very hard. Better get used to this screen, because you're going to be seeing it a lot. Sonic dies at the flimsiest of excuses, such as splatting into a wall. I don't even know how or why that stops you. It just does. There's also parts where the screen scrolls up, and if you fall past it, even if there was a platform just there a few seconds ago, you will die. That's the price of this kind of level design. Fortunately, Sega did patch in allowing you to get 100 lives after getting 100 rings. Sometimes your progress stops because you need enough flickies to be able to access the final level. They're easy enough to get because of the circus tents. These are fine. You have to use the gamepad's touchscreen. Only problem is I sometimes don't know if I should be watching the TV or the gamepad. Not much to say here, but it's there if you want. Finally, that leaves us to returning red rings. This time they can range from being very easy to get to being very, very annoying because you don't automatically get them after acquiring them. No, you have to make sure you get the ring and don't die until you get to a checkpoint. This makes it very, very annoying. I hear you get a Chaos Emerald and you unlock Super Sonic this way, but I didn't bother to do it. Yeah, first Sonic game since it was introduced that I didn't bother getting Super Sonic when the option was available. How do you pull that one off? So that leaves us with the final boss. Spoiler warning, skip to this time in the video. I'll give you about 5 seconds. You have to confront all 6 Zeddy in 2 zones. The first one is against them on a spherical plane. I shouldn't really compare this to Super Mario Galaxy because it seems unfair, but they are so desperately trying to go for the same feel. So after you beat them, you have to fight the remaining 3 Deadly Six, including a one-on-one rematch with Zark. After you beat him, he grows giant. I didn't know he could do that, but it's a video game rule. So Sonic and Tails reunite and find that the machine is already turned off. Turns out Eggman just faked his death so he could get his mech. So Sonic's gotta fight Eggman yet again. This final boss is very, very easy once you get the patterns down. It's a little similar to the Nega Wisp fight in Sonic Colors. It even has the close-up when you hit him with a homing attack. Sonic beats Eggman, and Tails and Sonic make fun of how they didn't really need Eggman, so yeah, that alliance was pointless, wasn't it? Why did Eggman even bother going to all this trouble?
I'm a complicated guy.
Oh, okay then. So things are back to normal, and Sonic takes a nap while his friends just kinda look on, making it seem like nothing has been accomplished. So yeah, that happened. There's DLC for the game. I wasn't able to get my hands on the night stage, but I did play the Yoshi's Island and Legend of Zelda stages. The Yoshi's Island one is all 2D, and there's not much to say. I must admit, I really should have done Yoshi's Island as part of last year's marathon for Mario, but I wasn't entirely sure I should test the Super Nintendo with the Elgato. The Legend of Zelda level is all 3D. It's very open-ended, no bottomless pits, just run around and get the Triforce at the end. If the rest of the game had more levels like this, I think it would have been more positively received. Sonic Lost World for the Wii U is not a horrendous game. It's at least playable. But it's maddeningly frustrating at times. It feels like this game was an experiment, to see if this style of gameplay worked for Sonic. Sega has struggled to give 3D Sonic a consistent identity, because reception has always been mixed, and based on what I've seen of Sonic Forces, the reaction to this game has scared them into going back to something that they know works. So it's not an inherently bad game, just a very flawed one. There was potential, but it didn't reach it. On to the 3DS version. Well, for starters, I'll say the presentation is decent, a little blurry, but I can make it out. They decided to just compress the cutscenes instead of just going with the Sonic Generations approach. Not really sure why, but I guess they felt it was easier this way. For a 3DS, the game looks very crisp and colorful as well, very impressive for the system. Although I'm not happy with how my 3DS footage is coming out. I really need to figure out something with OBS. This is the first fully 3D portable Sonic game. Sonic can do pretty much everything he could do in the HD version, though sometimes you have to do a somersault to weaken enemies and then finish them off with a homing attack. This wouldn't bother me so much, but there are times where the levels will pause because you have to defeat a certain number of enemies or free some flickies, which is annoying. Some of these enemies go on for way too long. Do these sandworms ever die? Come on! Oh, just die already! Come on! Oh, finally! Another thing I must criticize is Sonic's get-up animation is way too delayed in this version. Every time you get hit, it takes Sonic 3 seconds to get up. That slows down the pacing. In every other Sonic game, when you get hit, you can get back up and get the rings back as soon as you can, so why change that? While the wisps and parkour system were optional in the console version, here they're mandatory. You better master the ability to run along walls because you're gonna need it. Sometimes I've managed to pull off daredevil moves and escaping certain death. Sometimes some of the wisp power-ups are just annoying to use because you need them to advance the level. The levels go on for way too long too, it's so annoying. It starts off so well too with levels being smooth and brisk but just become long and tedious. Now for the special stages. Oh, the special stages. You have to use the 3DS gyroscope feature to control Sonic, which means you're gonna have to tilt the 3DS like a madman, and that's hard to do because I have my 3DS hooked up to the computer to record. I was only able to get the 5 Chaos Emeralds this time around. Fortunately, this time you don't need them to unlock the true final boss, but still, it's kind of annoying. So for the second time, I wasn't able to get supersonic footage. The bosses are just... they're predictable, and they're repetitive. You gotta fight the Deadly Six twice. Twice! What's weird is that the console version, when you beat them, they disappear. It was kind of an anticlimactic way to get rid of them, but it was something. But here, they leave and are never seen again. Just kinda odd. The final boss? Minor spoilers here. There's nothing really much to say. There's some annoying black hole move, where you get knocked all the way back to the beginning of the fight. Is that a punishment, or what? Sonic Lost World for the 3DS has a lot of promise, but it's wasted on questionable level design, and just a frustrating decision to go with gyro controls. It will test your patience to the limit. Which version do I prefer? I'd say stick with the console version. Much more pristine, I'd say. Well, we're done with all the Sonic games, which means Super Mario Odyssey and Sonic Forces are just around the corner. While I have a considerable amount of hype for Super Mario Odyssey, Sonic Forces I'm considerably more mixed about. I'll have to explain why in a video I'll try to get out before Super Mario Odyssey comes out. Well, for now, I'm signing off. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, please hit that subscribe button.